thank you so much for having this chat with me about LinkedIn groups. I was extremely excited to stumble upon your group based on the recommendation from someone in my network when I said, I want a thriving LinkedIn group. You know, there must be one out there. Please let me know if there is one. And I stumbled upon yours. So could you tell me a little bit about your group, what its purpose is and how it came about?
I will. And, you know, it's funny that you say that because it's funny. Exactly yesterday at this exact time of day, I was doing another interview about my LinkedIn group. And it seems like lately, the more that groups are kind of becoming ghost towns, actually, that's not my phrase. That's the phrase of a person who wrote about groups in Huffington Post Business, J.D. Gershwin, and Gershwin there with an N. Yeah, so I was sitting around, it was January 1st, 2013, so 7.5 years ago, sitting around on January 1st saying, okay, what am I going to do differently this year? Okay, I had already written my book, Step into the Spotlight. I had already launched a few programs. What is going to be my initiative this year? What am I going to do? And it always appealed to me, the idea of getting sponsorship. Because I thought, yeah, I'll be lying on the beach and the millions will be rolling in while I'm, you know, I don't sip margaritas, but whatever it is that you sip on the beach when you don't drink margaritas. I would be doing that, right? And buying all the, you know, they pass by and they sell you stuff and buying all the bracelets. That's what I would do while the money rolled in. So I thought, okay, but I can't get sponsorship if I don't have a community. So I better build a community. Well, 7 years later, I don't have the sponsorship. I've never sought it, and I don't even know if you can do it on LinkedIn, but I have, ironically, a thriving community. So I just started inviting a very select group of people. I didn't want it to be just all business people. I wanted it to be authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs, experts, independent consultants, professionals like lawyers. I was a lawyer for 10 years. And I wanted also not to be general business topics, but I wanted it to be very specific to marketing, which is the topic that I focused on for the last 20 years. How to get seen, get heard, get noticed, get known. So my book is called Step into the Spotlight. So it made sense that I would call this group also Step into the Spotlight. Same as my program, same as, you know, a lot of things I'm doing to have the consistent branding. And I just started inviting people that fell in that category. And it started to grow. And as it started to grow, we started facing all these challenges of, well, you know, there are groups up there with 500,000, 300,000, up to 1 million. There are some, but nobody's talking to anybody. It's just sort of a billboard. They're all just posting, you know, I'm doing a webinar, 7 ways to feed your cat before Friday, you know, all this kind of stuff, but nobody is answering. There's no comments. I thought, well, there's no point in doing that. It's just a waste of time. So we became very, very, I say we, in the beginning it was just me until about a year ago, very, very strict about asking members not to post articles, which people get so mad at me. What do you mean? No, you know,
I actually love that rule.
No articles, no teaching posts, no promos, no hashtag. Now, once in a blue moon, I let them promote. But what I do is I say, okay, guys, promote your stuff in the comments under this one post. So everybody gets all their promotionness done. And then we go back to talking to each other, right? So no hashtags, no pictures of your cat, no promotional, you know, dance in the rain. I mean, those are all great, but again, nobody's talking to anybody. So what I ask members to do is post super conversational, super interactive questions about marketing, and it shouldn't just be stuff to set up how smart you are, right? Because a lot of people do that too. Like they'll ask, like, so if I'm an expert about, you know, SEO. I shouldn't be asking questions about SEO. I should be asking questions about, do you like this title or that title of my new book better? Should it be hardcover or soft? And I will answer questions about SEO. So that's kind of how we built this thriving community, because we sort of modeled for them how to talk to each other. It's kind of like a backstage area, green room for experts and entrepreneurs and media. That's the other secret. I invited a lot of media. So there are tons of podcasters. There's the Entrepreneur magazine editor-in-chief, there's New York Times bestselling authors, there's Emmy Award winners in there. So there's a bit of a draw for entrepreneurs to be there. So those are a few of the secrets. There's a lot more.
So do you have a set flow in your group of posts? I noticed in your group you start a lot of conversations, as well as others, which I think is fantastic. What I find with groups is, and I know even I actually run a couple of groups, much smaller groups, but it tends to be me that's always the conversation starter. So what I love about your group is you've got other people starting the conversation. But in terms of your own focus, do you have is it very organic? Do you come up with a monthly plan or a weekly plan, or do you have set days of the week where there's certain topics?
Please look at my face while she suggests that. The monthly plan. I don't even have a daily plan. I don't have a weekly plan. I have a show up and whatever plan.
I got that impression actually, and I love that. It's interesting because I run a Facebook group. I'm a member of some Facebook groups, and there's a very set, like, this day's for this day's for that. And it doesn't work. It's not. And particularly this year, everybody's plan is out the window. So why do we need a strict rule about what days have this?
We have enough rules in our, the rule in our, well, first of all, if you read the group rules, the very first rule is that as an entrepreneur, you're supposed to break the rules. So that's rule number one is break the rules. And I actually sometimes sneakily help my own members break my own rules. Because like people will want to promote something, but we have this anti-promotion rule, and I say, leave it to me. And I figure some way to ask them questions so that they can, I don't want to let the secret get out, because if everybody, asks me to do that, I won't be able to do it. But once in a while, if I really want to help somebody out, I do that. But I just want to answer you, to go back to what you asked initially. The way I see it, and I have this decision to make in the beginning, there's really two kinds of groups on LinkedIn and on Facebook. There's the, when you go fishing, that you can pay money and go to the salmon pond, and they pre-stock it with salmon, and then you go and you come home and you say, look what I caught, but it was pre-stocked with salmon. Or it's more organic and you go to the river and whatever comes, right? So I could have pre-stocked my pond, and I'm the big guru, right? And then whenever I need clients, I go fishing in my own pond, which is the way a lot of LinkedIn groups are, and even more Facebook groups, I think, are made this way. Or I could invite my competitors. I don't really feel like I have competitors, so I'll call them colleagues, but people who do what I do, people who are marketing experts, people who are speaking experts, people who are experts on how to write a book, all the things that I teach people, all the things I have programs in. I have two choices: keep them out so that I get to be the big guru and I get all the clients, or bring them in so that, it's sort of like a shopping center. You've got this anchor tenant, that draws, but you've also got all these other stores. And I figure, I don't want to be the anchor tenant. I'd rather have people like Michael Gerber, who wrote The E-Myth, is a member of our group. Mm-hmm. Marshall Goldsmith is a member of our group. Al Rees, who wrote Positioning, one of the greatest books of all time marketing, is a member of our group. There are so many big name people who are way more credible than I am at what they do, and I embrace that. I invite them. I invite, whether they're big name or just people like me that maybe nobody's heard of locally or internationally or whatever, but they do what I do. I'm happy to invite them because they draw their own people. So, and it also creates a better flow and a better mix for the group.
Yeah, I love that. I guess people refer to it as that blue ocean strategy, but you're right. If there's just one central person in the group, it's hard to,
and
it's lovely to have the others there.
And I don't want to be making all the posts. Some of the, I post more often than other people only because I want there to be activity in the group, right? Mm-hmm. I wish more people will post. I hope, Anna, that immediately after our interview, right? Immediately after you've had your scrambled eggs, because it's, let's face it, it's 7 a.m. and you've got kids. Immediately after that, I would love it if you would go to the group and ask an interactive one-line question about marketing, something you're really, really,
one in my head right now, and it's all to do with books. So that's absolutely perfect.
Perfect. So it's not, I don't want to be the one posting all the questions. I don't want that. I want it to be interactive. And about the plan thing, today my daughter sent me a picture of an orthodontist who had posted this billboard that said, now would be a really, now is, I forget the exact wording, the wording was perfect, but now is the absolute best time to get braces. And it shows this picture of this pretty girl wearing a mask, right? It's hilarious, right? And it's really taking advantage of what's going on now. Immediately after I saw that, even though I had a client in the morning and I was getting ready for this, I quickly threw it up on the group. So that's not part of the plan. That's just something I taught today. This morning on the news, I heard that our federal government here in Canada, where I live, is paying $96,000 a year. They're advertising this job for a storyteller. Now the opposition is skewering them and saying, yeah, you tell enough stories of your own, you don't have to pay for a storyteller, and you've got the media telling stories for you, you don't need it. But it's a juicy topic, right? So I threw it up there. There are other days that I don't have those ideas, and I hope that other people will.
Yeah, look, I will definitely do that. And you're right. It's wonderful when you can get a group where people feel comfortable enough and interested enough to engage. And I think that's really special. Is there anything? What do you think is the secret to getting that to happen? Or when people join the group, do you do welcome posts or things like that? What is it that makes your group special? Is it its rules? Is it its focus? Is it its perhaps your personality and the strategy? Because I have these community conversations a lot on LinkedIn with, and not so much about, this really came about because I wanted to really tackle the topic of LinkedIn groups, but I talk to a lot of community people. And it's oftentimes, and I've found in my own experience, sometimes it's the community manager themselves that is the special sauce behind a group, because they are, they reach out to members when they first join, or they really make an effort to kind of build those relationships. What do you think is so special about your group? Is it you, or is it something else about the group?
It's interesting because I never thought my group was so special until I started getting all these, interview after interview after interview about this group. And so I started thinking, oh, okay, maybe it is. So thank you for that compliment. First of all, I don't want to assume that that's true, but there are a lot of secrets to how we keep it super engaged and super interactive. First of all, I am there 8 days a week, 25 hours a day, except when I travel. Actually, I traveled back when that was a thing, but people actually traveled.
I remember that.
Remember those good old days? So last year I was 2 months in Spain. So I actually asked a member of the group to watch over things for me, because I didn't know what kind of interaction, what kind of internet I would have. And she actually said, if you want me to be a moderator after this, I'm happy to do that. And actually, so now it's not just me. I actually have a wonderful moderator, Carol, who helps. But for the first, 5-6 years, it was just me. And one of the secrets is who I invited to join the group. I invite big mouth people to join the group. I invite opinionated people to join the group. So if I see people online who are, I don't invite the posters as much as the commenters, right? Anybody can post. And usually in most groups, the posters are people who, they usually don't post questions. They usually post about how great they are and how great their business is, or, again, 10 ways to fry salmon. That's not what we were lacking in our group. What we needed were people to talk to each other, and I wanted to create this backstage kind of atmosphere. So I invite big mouths to the group. One of the secrets of my community is that it's full of leaders of other communities. So you said that you have a couple of groups on LinkedIn. Many of our members lead Facebook groups, lead LinkedIn groups. Some of them, in fact, most of them are bigger than my group. Ours is kind of considered intimate. We're approaching 13,000 people. That's very small compared to some of our members who have 77,000 people, 165,000 people, 300,000 people in their groups. So one of my mentors used to say, don't look for a treasure map, look for a treasure chest full of treasure maps, right? That Alex Mendosian said that. And that's what our group is.
Lovely?
It's not just, the place, it's a place where it can lead you to all these other places, right? So that was one of the secrets as well. Now, it doesn't always work. There used to be a thing called subgroups. I think they got rid of them now and they made them separate groups. But when they still had that, I started a subgroup of lawyers because I was a former lawyer and I thought I have an affinity with them and they'd be great clients for me, so I should get to know them. And I scrounged up, and I use that phrase, scrounged up, because it's very hard to get lawyers to do anything online. They're busy with whatever they're doing, or at least they were before recent events. So I finally got about 200 lawyers in this subgroup. And at the beginning, kind of, they talked to each other a little teensy weensy bit, but it really just fizzled out. And then LinkedIn made it a separate group, and I didn't really pay that. And it still exists. I think there's like 150 people. I haven't been in there in months. So what it showed me was, now every single one of those people is also in my main group, because when they had subgroups, they had to be part of me. So they are in the main group, but in the main group, people are talking to each other. In that subgroup, they're not. So it told me, not everybody's going to talk to each other. If you make a group of roofers, right, they're out on the roof. They're not going to necessarily be online talking. So it's perfect for me to have consultants, authors, speakers, coaches, people that do talk online. So look at who you invite. Look at, the kinds of things that you encourage and the kinds of things that you discourage. And you asked if I welcome people. In the beginning, not so much. I did have one welcome post when they used to let you pin post. So again, that's something that every time LinkedIn wants.
I wish that would come back.
Anna, they keep fixing LinkedIn, and every time they say, "Oh, we just added this new feature," I'm just looking for the 10 that they took away, right? And so they fixed something that wasn't broken, and they took away all this good stuff, and that was one of them. So we used to have this welcome post. It had 500-600 comments on it, right? It still exists, but nobody can find it because it's not pinned. So I don't tell them to every time put a welcome post, because the 13,000 people you have, just welcome post. But if somebody does, we don't delete it. But that's the kind of thing we would normally delete if it was any other kind of statement other than, "Hi, I'm new here." So "Hi, I'm new here," we don't delete. The other thing is that I often tag people. So if somebody who asks a question about something that, whether I'm an expert in it or not, whether it's my area to answer or not, like it could be that somebody asked about writing a book, which I could answer, or marketing, which I could answer, or speaking, which I could answer. But what I do is I'll also tag 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people from the top of my head who also know about that. Not always. I mean, I can't do it all the time because nobody likes to be tagged all the time. But every once in a blue moon, for example, we've got
when it's strategic and thoughtful, it's appropriate.
Right. So we've got, I was going to say 50, 60, but probably a few hundred LinkedIn experts in our group. I just don't know who they all are, but I've got probably 50 or 60 in my head without looking it up that I could rattle off. So if somebody asks a question about LinkedIn, I can post, "Oh, that's a great question. Let's ask so-and-so," and post a bunch of people's names. That also helps with the engagement. And the other thing is, we have a bunch of LinkedIn employees who are members of our group. Now, these are not necessarily people that I invited. These are people that other people told about our group, and they started coming to see what all the fuss was about. And every once in a while, they interview me about LinkedIn groups. Now, of course, they ignore everything I say, and they do whatever they're going to do anyway, but it's an honor just to be asked. And to that end, one more little trick I want to give you that I don't think anybody's using, but I've been telling people and nobody does it. One of the first things I did was I went to GoDaddy, I invested $10 a year or whatever they charge, and I bought a URL so that when I'm in an interview like this with you, or on the radio or television, wherever it is, or speaking, I can tell people, go to www.spotlightgroup.biz, B-I-Z, because com wasn't available, spotlightgroup.biz, and it's a forward that takes them to the LinkedIn join page for the group. So I don't have to say, if you ask me, "Oh, what's your group?" and they look it up and they look up Step into the Spotlight and they don't find it because the search function on there is not very good. Or I don't have to tell them linkedin.com/groups/Tsufit/48729. Like, who remembers that, right?
You're absolutely right. It's a very simple trick, and it's a run. And it could, it could easily be done as a bit.ly possibly as well. I mean, that's so simple.
Yeah, bit.ly's a little harder, because unless you get a vanity name, like you've got to get a name that people read. It's not just the question of it being short; it's the question of it being memorable, right?
Yeah.
And makes sense. So Spotlight Group, well, everybody knows this is the Spotlight Group. The only part that's a little harder is the biz. But Spotlight, it has to do with business. So spotlightgroup.biz, it's easy for me to say. And it's easy for people to pass it to their friends and invite them. And we periodically encourage our members to invite, 3 other cool people like you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I will pass that to the LinkedIn team that I know. So that's wonderful. What features would you love to see? What would make your day-to-day group management better and a better experience?
I would love to see the pinned post come back, so that we can say welcome to the group. When I first started my group, we not only had one pinned post, but at the beginning there were 10 that you could put as featured posts, and they would rotate. That created some activity. So every time they came, they saw something different. I loved it when there were 10, right? And you could change them, and you didn't have to change all 10. You put up a new post, you put it into the rotation. I would love to see that come back. There used to be something called announcements that the group owners or leaders could send once a week, an announcement to the group. They took that away for years. They brought back a weekend version of it called recommendations, which is that you can take, and this pretty recently, where you can take one of your posts once a week and more people see it. The most important thing is the notification system must become more robust. It's so much better on Facebook as far as I can see. Facebook, you can put up a post and 3 seconds later, 97 people have commented on it. On LinkedIn, I noticed that when I can only do it once a week. When I send the recommended post, immediately there's a lot of discussion on that post, which means that every other time people are just not seeing the post. And when I talk to people one-on-one, which I often do, or through direct messages, they say, I never get notifications about the group. I don't know that there's anything going on there, but I got this one. Well, they got the one because of the once a week thing. Why aren't they sending those notifications more often to people if they want them, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
So,
even
so
on
that's another recommendation.
Even on a company page now, you can notify all the employees once every 24 hours. So that exists, but
yeah. I'm sure they could do it. I mean,
but in terms of the functionality, I think it's there. It could be less than 7 days, but I think they're obviously just trying to stop making it spammy. But it means that people would only be members of group that they actually want to be members of. And that's one of the feelings that I get is the limit used to be 50, and then you could be a member of 100 groups.
I am a member, or I used to be a member of 100, yeah.
And that is a lot. But if there were notifications happening for groups, you would probably pick the 10 to 20 that you really loved and you wanted to engage in.
We're supposed to be able to set the notifications the way we want them. So if there's only one group that you want to hear from, you can set it that way and then keep the other 99 to just go visit when you want to. So this is not a question, I don't think, of functionality. I think it's a question of what they want to do. But you know what? Here's the thing. There are a lot of group owners complaining about LinkedIn all the time. I'm a member of groups of group owners, and they're always complaining about LinkedIn. I do not complain. I mean, I gripe about the glitchiness or whatever, or all the few things that I just said, but I'm grateful for LinkedIn. For what I pay to be a member of LinkedIn, which is nothing because I'm a free member, what an amazing value that I get to, interact with all these people, that I get to lead a group. I am very, very grateful for LinkedIn. I have no interest in complaining to them about anything. And you know what? It will come. It will come. And it's funny because now that most LinkedIn groups are kind of dying out because they're not being watered, the group owners are abandoning them, kind of like a desert, I even had a group owner who's a member of my group who was about to abandon his group. I didn't know this till later, but he told me later. He was about to abandon my group, and I gave him some kind of pep talk without knowing I was doing it. And he started following my rules in his group, and his group is like 10 times almost the size of mine, maybe a little less than 10, 8 times. And it brought it back to life. So now he's a good friend of mine, but a lot of people are not doing that. They're just letting them dry out in the wilderness. They're letting people spam them.
I think people have this conception, and it's the same with groups across any platform, that you can just bring a bunch of people together and something magical will happen. No. And you create the shell and everybody will come. And that isn't the case. You have to be there. You have to show up. You have to be that leader, and you have to lead by example.
Yeah, and I mean, the nice thing is that I have, during the 7 years that I've had this group, I've gone, several times overseas for a month, for 2 months, and was much less active. And it did thrive. I mean, I did have one person, looking after here and there. But people did continue to talk to each other. But that was before LinkedIn started tightening up and less notifications. So it is getting more and more challenging. But you know what? I wrote a book about how to step into the spotlight and stand out. And one of the ways that you stand out is by doing things differently than other people are doing them. So I don't mind this challenge. I think yesterday I used the analogy of, if you've got this desert, which is what LinkedIn is really becoming, I don't mind watering my little patch of the desert and watching one little green thing sprout up and, second little green thing, third little green thing, and being this little oasis in the desert. I mean, it's another way of standing out. Another way that we actually encourage people to interact is I very often use my once a week post, the one I get to send to more people, to get people to talk about themselves, because we know that everybody's favorite topic is themselves. So a couple of days ago, I sent out, probably since you've been a member of the group, I sent out a question about after working with you, people will get blank, like 1 or 2 words. So everybody filled in their 1 or 2 words. So there were, tons and tons of comments on that, because everybody wants to say, oh, get inspired, write book, like whatever thing that they do. So for me, it was get noticed, right? Everybody wants to have a second to show off their little thing or their big thing. So we do that. I encourage podcasters to join, because a lot of people get podcast engagements by being invited by other members of the group. So the media component is another enticement for people to join and for them to be active. I can't tell you how many media interviews have come, not just for me, but for other group members as a result of being active in the group.
Yeah, that's amazing. And can you just talk us through your rules? Because I love your group rules, in that here are the rules, but you should break them. And in fact, I'll probably break them myself. And talk us through those, because when you do read those, that's pretty special.
Okay, well, I don't have it in front of me, so I'll just from memory. And it's interesting, because the person that I asked to assist me is a much tougher cookie than me. Okay, she's more of a rule person, and Tsufit, you said this was the rule, and I'm trying to explain to her the nuances. So it's kind of a perfect. It's perfect, because I have somebody there to enforce, but then I get to be, it's sort of like good cop, bad cop, or not that she's bad, but the parent who's indulgent and the parent who's not. I get to be the indulgent one. But so basically, the first rule is that in marketing there are no rules, right? In business there are no rules. That said, we would like you guys to, kind of go by this. So we don't want hashtags, because it kind of messes it just looks spammy, right? We don't want statements or declarations, because how do we even engage with that, right? And here's the other thing. There's this thing on LinkedIn where, like, marketing or selling or promoting, it's almost like a dirty word. Like, people are so embarrassed by the concept that you're promoting or self-promoting, that people would rather be caught buying a porno movie than talking about marketing, right? It's embarrassing. Our group is about marketing, but if we allowed everybody to show up and just market, nobody would be talking to anybody. So it's not that we're against promotion in the group. It's just that it doesn't work, right? If it worked, I would let everybody do it. It doesn't work. You have groups of 500,000 where everybody's promoting. Are people buying from that? Of course not, right? So I make it very clear in the rules that it's a group about how to promote, not to come promote to each other. We, roll up your sleeves, sit backstage in the green room, and let's ask each other, how did you get, on that TV show? How did you get, we've got authors in there, journalists in the group who write for Entrepreneur Magazine, they write for Inc. Magazine or Forbes or whatever. Other people want to know, how did you get the gig, right? We have a guy in the group who was looking for a job. I think he was in India, actually. And he put himself on a cover of GQ because he wanted an internship with GQ magazine. So he made this faux magazine, fake magazine, with himself on the cover, and instead he made the whole magazine into a resume. First thing I do when I read about that online or in the news or somebody tells me about it, I immediately look up the person and invite them to join the group. Right? We had a realtor who did this really unconventional videos of her getting in the bathtub of the house she was selling. I invited her to join the group. We had somebody who was had a bikini company and people were talking trash about her on LinkedIn because this is a serious platform. I immediately invited her to join the group. And by the way, she ended up being, I think, top 30 under 30. She ended up writing for Inc. magazine. she understood that you have to sometimes break the rules in order to be noticed. So in our group, I encourage people to do whatever they can to stand out in a way that will work for them. But if it's not going to work, you can't just show up and promote your thing, because nobody's going to notice, and they'll stop coming to the group because they'll say everybody's just promoting. So I don't have the rules in front of me. I was sort of in an inspired mood when I wrote them, but that's the basic idea. No articles, no teaching posts. We know you're smart. That's why you're in the group. We know you're accomplished. Like once in a while, I'll have somebody who wants to join the group, and she'll say, "Oh, this is great. I'm looking forward to sharing my content. I'm looking forward to teaching your group this. I'm looking forward to sharing, and I'm saying, hold it. This is a group full of you. This is a group full of other people exactly like you. And nobody wants what you just said. I mean, I say it way nicer than I'm saying it now. And people, the minute they hear that, sometimes they say, well, then I don't want to join the group. They only want to join groups where they can show up. And we do have people quit the group for that reason. But occasionally I say to them, just come and see what it is. And when they come and they understand that they're in a group of peers. They're used to being the big fish in the small pond. Well, now they're just a fish in a pond of other people like them.
That's really good. And I think the rules are really engaging, because most people just take a stock standard template group. Here's the rules. And don't give it any thought. And what I did love about yours was it was clearly very thoughtful, and it was intentional as well. To finish off, Tsufit, what is there any story or two that come to mind that just make you so proud of your group? It can be a story, somebody who's, and I'm sure there are thousands, but if you were to, for whatever reason, have to shut your group tomorrow, what would you think of in 10 years that you would be proud of? Was it an individual story, a story of something that happened within your group, or that happened because of your group?
I don't really have any one story. What I'm grateful for is that people privately send me messages and saying, Tsufit, I just got a new coaching client because of your group. Tsufit, I just got a podcast interview because of your group. So-and-so invited me to do this. So-and-so invited me to be on the panel. I mean, that's a thrill when people tell me that as a direct result of being in this group, as a result of a post, one woman was looking for a LinkedIn expert, and I tagged, 40 people. She ended up choosing one of those people, and she did this thing, and 400 people attended, and now they're collaborating, all this stuff. I hear these stories all the time. Sometimes people announce them publicly in the group. More often, they just come and tell me privately. I'm very happy when that happens. I'm very happy when LinkedIn comes to me and say, we heard about your group. Like, can we join? Can we interview you? Can we see what's going on? Very, very gratified when, like I told you, Huffington Post Business wrote about us. People are always interviewing us about how we do it. For me, actually, one of the things is I'm making a few actual real friends out of it. I have a friend in Germany now as a result of the group, where she and I just, we talk on the weekend for an hour and just laugh. And, and this is somebody that how would I meet this woman in Germany, right? Like, she just, we connected. I've attracted, not only clients and speaking and all the things that I want for the other people in the group. So that's been personally gratifying. It's just, so there isn't one story, but what I love is that the people who are in the group are people who are really doing stuff in their lives. Like, we have the former booker for A&E's Evening at the Improv in there, and I can support him because he does talks about the Beatles, so I find ways to support him in the group. And just like all these, the mother of a guy who, remember there was a guy who tried to get Prince Harry to, at his wedding, to play music or something.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Or whatever. So his mom is like, I just love all these stories. Like the one I just told you about the GQ guy, right? I just like having these interesting people in the group, and I am fearless when it comes to inviting people into, like, people I don't know, that have done interesting things in the world. I will track you down and I will invite you to the group. And you are going to join, unless you're like really not active on LinkedIn, but like Al Reese, for example, okay? I don't know if you know who he is, but he wrote Positioning. He wrote about 10, 12, 15 other books. He used to write with Jack Trout. He was named one of the top 100 of the century for the last century in terms of marketing and advertising. And he was already at his maximum number of groups. So you know what I said to him? So Al, so drop a group. I mean, you know, and he dropped a group and he came join our group. Like, I am ruthless when it comes, not ruthless, but I really make it very clear to them that this is the place to be. And I'm very happy when they're there.
Well, it certainly is, as far as I'm concerned, with LinkedIn groups, and I've only been there a week, I think, maybe.
Well, welcome, Anna.
And well, look, it's an engaged group, and this was exactly what I went after. I said to my network, there must be some out there, like, come on. And sure enough, there's been a couple that I've stumbled across, but yours definitely is the most engaged, and I think the most well.
And I support other group owners. That's the other thing. I've had a few people. One of my really good friends on LinkedIn is E.G. Sebastian. And in the beginning, we were a tiny little group, 4,000. He was much bigger. And he really supported our group. In his bigger group, he said, go join Tsufit's group. And I support him. I mean, making friendships with other group owners and supporting them is also a wonderful way to do it.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's really special. Listen, thank you so much. In terms of where people can find you, I mean, the obvious places in your group. So is there anywhere else that people can connect with you?
Well, first of all, if I may hold up
Absolutely.
Stephanie's Spotlight book, I would urge you to order it on Kindle now, because during recent months it's been a little hard to get the physical copies in. But if you go to spotlightbook.com, you will see the hard copy on Amazon, www.spotlightbook.com, and then it will lead you to the Kindle version. So read that and send me a personal note. Tell me what you think. The other way to connect with me directly, if you go to www.spotlightsecrets.com, Spotlight Secrets with an S at the end.com, you'll get a free series of little tips about how to stand out in 30 seconds in business. And any one of those, and it goes on and on, and I've had people on that list for years. You can reply to any one of those, and if I like you, I will reply back.
That's wonderful. I love that, and I'm definitely going to check out the book. So that's really excellent. Thank you so much. For those that are catching the replay, definitely take on board a lot of what Tsufit has talked about, and also connect with her in the ways that she has suggested. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, Anna.